Hello friends, and welcome back. As promised, today we're going to go into the first of the 7 layers of the food forest, and that's the canopy layer. Dave Jacke, in his book Edible Forest Gardens, defined the canopy layer as 30 to 60 feet tall. So these are your largest trees. This layer is the most important layer for a food forest, or it's at least equally important as the underground layer with the mycorrhizal fungi and all the roots. So the highest layer and the lowest layer are the 2 most important layers out of the 7 layers. But truthfully, a true food forest really should have all 7 layers. If you're starting a food forest in just a grassy field with no trees, you may plant trees that may become part of the canopy eventually when they grow tall enough, but they're not there yet, so you don't have the 7 layers yet. You just sort of have the promise of the 7 layers that in a few years, depending on how fast the tree grows, maybe some years down the line you'll have a canopy layer starting to take shape, and it'll begin to be actually a food forest. This is such an important layer. Why is it so important? This is the layer that captures the most sunlight and transfers that energy into biomass, or creates the biomass using that energy. And by the way, it does that with the help of nutrients provided by the mycorrhizal fungi down in the last of the 7 layers that I'll be covering, the below ground layer. So they work together, of course, with carbon dioxide and with water. But so yeah, the canopy layer is the highest. It's going to get the most sun. It's going to recycle the most nutrients. All these leaves and these trees will drop to the ground. The fungi will begin to work on decomposing those leaves, and those nutrients will get captured and fed back to the tree's roots and recycled. So that's the thing about a food forest that's different than other gardens, is it provides its own fertility by recycling nutrients. The canopy layer is very important because there's a lot of wildlife that use it and live in it. So the birds, the squirrels, the caterpillars, the moths and butterflies, many creatures live in the trees, feed on the trees, poop, and you know, that provide that for those nutrients for nutrient recycling. It's been said that oak trees, which that's what we're primarily talking about as a canopy layer, probably in Florida most of the time it's going to be your oak trees, it's been said by professional ecologists that these are the most important keystone species in most Florida habitats, at least forest habitats, of course. And that's because upwards of, in the hundreds of different species of moths and butterflies use these trees. So all their caterpillars crawling around in the tree, chewing on the leaves, these get eaten by the birds. And of course the birds have their droppings, which contribute to the nutrient recycling. So ecologically, very, very important. Also, the shade that they give. So without an upper canopy, a garden is just going to be too sunny and too hot, and it will have to be irrigated. It's going to have to be watered. If you have the right number of canopy trees in your garden, you have the possibility it may reach a point where you won't have to water very much at all. The trick, though, is to strike a balance, because the more shade you have from these big trees, the better it is when it comes to water retention and moisture retention. But if it gets too shady, you don't have enough light. So when we bought this property, one of the reasons why we liked it so much is I was looking at this backyard and I'm seeing these wonderful oak trees. This area of this garden here in the backyard is 1/3 of an acre, and we've got 9 big trees all about the size of this one in the picture here. There's some across the back there. So, and yet that sounds like a lot of trees for such a small space, but I'm going to try to hold this camera up high and show there is still a lot of sunlight. It's late November, so the sunlight that you can see in this shot is nowhere near as bright as it gets and as extensive as it gets in the summertime. But even this time of year, when growth rate has slowed quite a bit for most plants, there's still plenty of light for now. Over time, as the other layers of the food forest grow, it's going to get shadier and shadier. You know, basically you want to decide what's more important, food production versus the shade and the cool temperatures that it provides, you know, and versus also wildlife habitat. How important is that? I value all of these things. I like shade, I like helping wildlife, and I also like food. So I'm trying to strike a balance here between all of that. Now, I've planted several tree species that will someday join these oaks in the canopy. Trees like the Dunstan chestnuts and mulberries, loquat, and American persimmons. Most of my Japanese persimmon trees probably will always be understory trees. They probably won't get as big as the American persimmons. And I think, oh yeah, and then the avocados, again though, even with my avocados, these are smaller avocados. I don't know if they'll ever get to that 30 to 60 foot tall range that Dave, Jackie, and others have defined as your canopy layer. But it'll be many years. Mulberries do grow very fast, so maybe in about 5 years, possibly, the mulberries may get tall enough that we can call them part of the canopy. But I guess that about covers it. The other trees are going to be basically, for right now, actually, they're not even tall enough to call them the understory. They're really just shrub size. But when they get big enough, in a few years, maybe 3 years, 2-3 years, well, we may be able to call at least the mulberries and some of the faster growing trees part of the understory. So that'll be my next video after this one, part 2. We'll get into the understory and talk about it a little bit. So I guess that's it on the canopy. It's very, very important. Any garden that does not have a canopy is a hot garden. It's got a lot of dry soil unless it's really constantly watered. And it doesn't have any potential really to be completely self-fertilizing. You'll always have to add mulch, add, you know, compost, fertilizer in some form if you don't have a canopy. But if you do have the canopy, especially a nice mature canopy like this, it does offer the potential for the garden reaching that point where it's self-maintaining in terms of fertility and a little bit closer to self-maintaining in terms of moisture retention. Okay, I hope that helps. That's it on part 1, the canopy, and next time we'll cover the understory. That's it for now, folks. Y'all take care.